in the grocery store.
Did do that.
All right, I have been told we are live. Good, attendees are starting to pop in on Zoom, so I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting of June 16th, 2022. We have one item on the agenda tonight.
We
which
are
is
live.
Good, attendees are starting to pop in on Zoom, so I'll call the meeting to order. Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yes,
June 16th,
that's
2022.
really bad. So they're
We
dealing
have
with an
one
audio
item
issue in
on
the
the
room.
agenda tonight.
We
which
are
is
live.
Good, attendees are starting to pop in on Zoom, so I'll call the meeting to order. Well.
Yes,
June 16th,
that's
2022.
really bad. So they're
We
dealing
have
with an
one
audio
item
issue in
on
the
the
room.
agenda tonight.
We
which
are
is
live.
Good, attendees are starting to pop in on Zoom, so I'll call the meeting. I don't care about your address. If you're speaking on behalf of a committee or a department or an organization, whether it be in town or outside of town, let us know that too. That's important. I know the advertisement said there was a 3-minute limit on speakers. We'll be really flexible with that. We want the input. So if you have some good details or if you have more than one idea, just keep going, but be respectful that a lot of other people are going to have some ideas too. If you have 10 ideas, I want all 10 ideas. Say 2 or 3 of them, sit down, let other people speak, and then come back in. We'll keep going. If you have details to share on your ideas, we'd like to hear them. If you have ideas as to how much something might cost, that's good to know. It's also fine if you don't. If you know that the item that you're recommending is related in some way to something else we already do, it's okay. Let us know what the differences are, whether it's an existing program, you love it, you just want it to be larger, or if you think that the program we have or the equipment or the service or whatever else needs to be a little different for one reason or another, let us know that too. It is possible that we may have some questions for you so that we can best understand the ideas. And it's totally okay if you don't know the answers if we ask them. We're not going to be deciding on anything tonight. We're here to listen. If you have other ideas later, or if you think of some more details that you want to get us, we have an email address. It's been well publicized. You can go to the town website and find it, but it's arpainput@town.northborough.ma.us. We're going to keep that open for a while. Send us more stuff, but my hope is really to get some good dialogue and some really good information going tonight. And I will say we have not established a real timeline on when we're going to make decisions on how to spend the rest of the ARPA funds. We want to do it soon so that it goes to use as soon as possible, but we don't want to make it too quickly. We have 2.5 years in theory to officially make decisions on it, but we'll, I imagine we're going to be making decisions much sooner than that. Before we get started, are there any questions just procedurally on how this should run? Anybody else has anything to say before we get started? If not, yep. Oh, so sure. Thank you, Kathy. So there's a podium up here with a microphone. Anybody wants to talk, just come on up. That means we're starting. And if you're online, do your little raise hand thing in Zoom. And as I said, I'll go back and forth.
All right, I'll jump start it.
Thank you.
Sherry Clark, and I'm speaking as part of Northborough Youth and Family Services Committee. I joined the committee, or was put in that committee about a year ago. And I have to say, even before ARPA came along, I was shocked as part of the committee to find out that there was only 1 and 2 half people positions in that department. Just coming from case management background myself, I was really, really surprised that for a town our size, that's what we had. Then fast forward to ARPA, we've actually lost a part-time person. It's been unable to be filled since somebody left. Part-time positions for somebody who has a college educated degree are extremely difficult to fill. I know this position right now has been open for 6 months. The last time this happened, the position was open for 1.5 years before somebody was able to fill the position because of the part-time spot. So my suggestion, my recommendation is to add just a half a position to what Northborough Youth and Family Services has, making that a full-time position. It would make hiring easier. I realize with ARPA that only covers 2 years of the salary and the benefits. However, I personally feel that it is time that the department be recognized and that all that work be recognized, that there needs to be an additional half a person there. I know right now the biggest investment in the department has been through Interface, which is through counseling. However, you can't outsource case management. So my argument would be that although we're able to help mental health wise, some of our community through Interface, the results of some of that stuff, and for anybody who's had a family member struggling with mental health, they know like it could affect the family work wise, it could affect the family school wise, it could affect parents that need to take time off from work and ultimately lose a job. So case management is not something that can be outsourced and really needs to be done within our town by people in our town. That Interface was also great. There used to be a 14-day wait, as most people know, because it's all over the news. Mental health help is really difficult to get right now. And even through Interface, it's currently a 40-day wait. So if a family goes into crisis, and for those not familiar with families in crisis, that means there is a child threatening to harm themselves, harm somebody else, it is being handled by our town because they need somebody immediately. There is no waiting 40 days for a family in crisis. In addition to all of that, Case management deals with housing resources. Although there are state offered resources, a lot of families just miss the cut. $200, $100, they don't qualify. And we are helping them find homes, loss of jobs, overall family welfare. And then in the Metro West Health Foundation survey that was just done, mental health is the number one thing they're concerned with our teens. And I don't think it's any surprise because it's all over the news. So I would hope that this would be looked at. I feel like we spent $18,000 on pickleball fencing, and the difference between adding a half a position and maybe some of these things is really not very much. I also want to say I was just surprised with the ARPA funding that most of it was capital expenses, and there wasn't a lot to actually go back and help our families, our community. And I really feel like that's what ARPA is intended for. I have to say, I'm not against capital expenses. I think I voted for every single one at town meeting as they've come along. But I feel like the ARPA funding is there. If it's not now, if we don't invest in our community now, when is that time? When do we invest in the people in our community? I feel like this would be a very, very big missed opportunity if we didn't take advantage of it.
Thanks, Sherry. I'm sure there are more ideas in the room. I don't see any hands up online. So, all right. And yeah, just come up. You don't have to wait for me to recognize you.
So I'm Liz Nasser. I am on the Council on Aging, but I'm not speaking on their behalf right now.
Thank you.
I'm a dementia specialist, and one of the things that I tell my patients is that the best way to prevent dementia is to stay physically active and stay socially connected. And I think that those two things actually don't just apply to the elderly, and those are two things that really we lost during the pandemic. So I have some sort of general ideas about both teens and elders. I think that could be helpful, and what the specifics of how that would happen, I don't really know. When my kids were in elementary school for a few years, or maybe just a year, we had I think it was called FIT, where before school there was just a gym activity. It was run by a mom and played games, like were physically active. It brought kids together. You had to have a child that was semi-motivated to do that and a parent that could get them there. But that it was more meant to sort of start the day off with your head clear and your, getting energy out. And I think that there's been some research that shows for kids then to be able to focus on school, starting the day off like that was really helpful. So that's a pretty low budge item, but I think, there'd have to be some organization around it to have it in the elementary schools. I don't know that it's really appropriate for the high school, but to bring kids together in sort of a, non-competitive but fun way to get started. I know the senior center recently had and it was through I don't know if it was ARPA money, but it was just a group format where people came together and they talked about whatever. It's not really formal group therapy. I don't think it was run by a therapist, but people just got together and talked about what was going on in their lives. And the feedback from that, I think, is that it was quite beneficial and people really got a lot out of that. One of the problems right now is that we have a therapist shortage. I'm a neuropsychologist. I get calls every other day, someone looking for a therapist. I just don't do that. And I know that we can say like, oh, we have a directory, we can, hook someone up with a therapist. But therapy is wonderful if you can get the right therapist, if you have someone that's motivated. Once a week for a lot of the things that I think a lot of people are dealing with is not enough. But a group format, some sort of groups that can happen for teens, for elders, for adults, for anyone really, to be able to get together. I mean, I think we have a lot to, in a non-formal way, in an inexpensive way, we really can do a lot to help each other. But I think it needs to be something that's like has some structure and some organization. So it could come off of Youth and Family Services. It could continue to come out of the senior center. But I think thinking about ways like that to bring people together, not in a one-on-one therapy situation, potentially in a group therapy situation, just in a group situation. Just one other model at my gym in Westborough. There's a program there called Empowered RX, and it's specifically targeted for girls with eating disorders. They lift weights and they meet as a group. And the progress and the resiliency and the ability of these girls to overcome their eating disorders where like inpatient treatment failed, years of therapy failed, just, picking up a barbell and sort of recognizing that that's a way to get stress out, to feel good about yourself, to get stronger. The benefit of that program, which is not run by a therapist, has been pretty unbelievable. So programs like that, I think some of them are out there, and to kind of try to tap into some of that can be very beneficial.
Great. Thank you, Liz. Thanks. The microphone is working. Yes. Yeah. We don't hear the feedback in here, so that it doesn't create a feedback loop like what we heard earlier. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, great. I've got a hand up on Zoom, and then you're up next. All right. Jean Cahill, I am bringing you in just on audio.
Hi, this is Jean. Jean Cahill. I live at 1 Paris Street. Can you hear me?
Yes. Is there a way we could turn that up at all? Just a second, Jean.
I can get closer too.
Yeah, I wonder if it's this.
So if we turn it up a little, she might get a little feedback. On
Okay.
her end, but-
All right. We'll see. Okay. All right, Jean, we've got it turned up a little bit in here. That was the issue at our end. Go ahead.
Just let me know if you can't hear. Thank you, Select Board, for helping us discern community priorities and how to best allocate the $2.2 million toward needs. I think we all want our community to be well, and yet, we've got so many critical needs, the basic needs for today, affordable housing, youth services, the programs that have already been discussed. And those needs are, of course, deep needs that I fully support. I'd also like to advocate that we address the needs of tomorrow. I've spoken about this at a few different forums now, but we're facing the existential crisis of climate change, and it's affecting our kids. It's affecting their health. It's affecting their mental health, their well-being, and their sense of the future, of hope in the future. And I really think this is something, that fundamentally calls us to action. Over the remainder of this decade, we are called to transition to rely on non-carbon emitting energy at every level. And I'm proposing that we consider allocating ARPA unmandated funding to be weighted toward achieving the maximal greenhouse gas reductions we can in our public buildings, vehicles, and operations. This will save the town money, and we can use that to further invest and to also help people who are struggling with energy costs at the lower income levels. The infrastructure and procurements that ARPA funds could help to afford include solar arrays on school and other municipal rooftops, geothermal heating in the new fire station, deployment of air source heat pumps for municipal building heat and cooling replacements, and vehicle replacements with high efficiency electric cars and trucks. We can also install with state funding, charging stations that serve municipal vehicles and public parking lots. These measures, solar arrays, heat pumps, backup battery storage, pay for themselves eventually over time in avoiding the high costs of energy. At this point, with $5 per gallon fuel costs, it just underscores the price advantage, and it accelerates the payback on clean and efficient electric, heat, and transportation equipment. This return on investment is financial, it's morale supporting, it's health promoting, and it's economy growing. And it's also imperative. It's imperative that we start to face this in every new procurement and project we undertake going forward. And I really thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Jean. Anybody have any questions for Jean before we switch off? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Marilee, you're up next, and then I see Karen Chapman will be after.
So Marilee Borden, 63 Little Pond Road. So I'm a small business owner in town, and I've also spent quite a bit of time over the last few years trying to help support other small businesses in town. It happens that what I do is marketing, and I've heard a tremendous need from particularly small businesses for needing help getting the word out, needing help bringing business to them. And so I've done this through the Northborough Guide Marketing Co-op, through things like the snowman hunt, various events, but there's only so much I can do and I have time to do. And I think this town would really really benefit from a more support of our small businesses. And I think an economic development committee is a starting place. And while I realize that creating the committee doesn't necessarily cost anything, I think if we could sort of seed them a little bit to do these types of activities that could help support our small businesses. And I think that an economic development committee would also be incredibly beneficial when we look at things like our warehouse concerns and what kind of businesses are coming to town and what's going to bring the type of traffic that we want, all those sorts of things. So I really think that we need to make an investment in the economic development of this town. And sort of adjacent to that is thinking about the types of things that we can do in this town that are going to attract the kind of businesses that we want. So obviously, you know, downtown revitalization has been a big hot topic for a long time. So I know that's already on your mind. Things like extending the rail trail, the bike path that goes between other towns, that would bring people through, you know, stopping for ice cream at Miller Farms, or things that they might do, attract people to our town in ways that they're not used to. So I hope that we would think about making those types of investments that are going to have, you know, really significant ROI in terms of bringing traffic to our town and really supporting our businesses that are already here and also attracting new businesses.
Thank you. All right. Karen Chapman, I'm going to bring you in to talk. Hi, Karen. Can you hear us all right?
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
Hear you. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to all the board and for your town for hosting a wonderful session to hear from obviously members of your community, but I'm here as the president of the Corridor 9495 Regional Chamber of Commerce. And the town of Northborough is one of the towns that we represent. And I am very interested in hearing obviously what the business community has to say or help support them in a lot of different ways to be successful. And more importantly, your downtown revitalization plan is a great opportunity to invite businesses in for the chamber to have a seat, to have a talk and talk about what that vision is and what the long-term plan is. I think it's a great opportunity to talk about what we can do to support the business community and look at that as a long-term vision. And I think there are a lot of ways to be able to do that. And I would like to offer the opportunity to sit at the table with other businesses to talk with you and our members of our business committee what that could look like.
Thank you. You mind if I ask you a question, Karen?
Sure.
How, for small businesses, particularly in Northborough, and I don't want you to name any names or anything, how, from your perspective, are the businesses doing now as compared to before the pandemic? I know the heat of the pandemic was really bad for everybody.
Right.
Yep. I'm curious how well they have recovered. Are things back to normal? Are things kind of back to normal, but are they still suffering as a result of deficits or anything else that occurred when things were bad?
What we've seen that some of the small businesses that were struggling before the COVID hit, we're not going to really make it during that portion of that time. But what we've seen is that the recovery period is becoming stronger. There's obviously more work to be done. And I know visibility and marketing is a big part of it. But I've spoken to your neighborhood tavern and seen what they've done. I've spoken to a lot of the small businesses in towns, and we've seen much more glimmer of hope with business being done and coming out of it stronger. And I think what they want to really talk about is more opportunities about what they can do to be more visible and obviously to market their business. And I know the woman behind, just who spoke earlier has talked a little bit about that too. But I think that what we're talking about isn't short term. I think it's more of a long-term plan. And you have a downtown revitalization plan. And I think that's more where we do invite the business community to hear what they have to say. I know that when I sit down to talk to a lot of business members too, and the first question is, how's your business doing and what we can do to support, the conversation is going to be different depending upon what the business is, from restaurants to small business owners, obviously, there's different size businesses, but we're very interested in talking to your small business community to see what we can do to help them be successful. But I would say things are getting more improving than they were from the last 2 years. We've seen much better improvement the last 2 years.
Okay, Karen, thank you. I appreciate you answering my question.
Thank you for the
Um,
opportunity.
Sure. Okay, I'm gonna move you back out of this and sure. That's okay.
I've been speaking to a lot of businesses over the last sort of since this ARPA conversation came up, and I've heard a few things. I mean, obviously, we've had a number of businesses that closed during COVID. I have heard from local businesses that have told me they are underwater, particularly ones that were new to town. And there's a couple of them that were new to town just prior to COVID hitting. And so they've really struggled because they were paying rent before having business, a lot of income. So I've heard that. The other piece that I'm hearing a lot is inflation and supply chain and freight costs are really impacting them. So a lot of these retail businesses are really, really hurting by their costs going up. And so I've heard from several businesses that they're finding it harder now than it was during COVID because of the impact of inflation as a result of the pandemic and supply chain. So I do think that our businesses need more support than it may be, than may be obvious.
Thank you. Okay. Carrie.
Hello, Carrie Martinek. I have a little wish list and I'm just going to break it up into sections. So the first part of it has a lot to do with what I know the Master Plan Implementation Committee is already working on. But if we could maybe put aside like a Kickstarter fund for all of those things, even if they're small things that we could take care of. What I'm going to list they don't equate to necessarily small things, but examples could be, just doing an analysis of the downtown traffic flow, things we could do, any alternate routes, facade overhaul, street lamps, burying the electric lines, connecting sidewalks downtown, even just general beautification, plantings, things like that. So if we had some sort of fund put aside where we could, as the Master Plan Implementation Committee comes up with ideas, if we could just make those small steps with having some sort of funding available without having to go through a super long process to get money. The second part, my second category is going to econ dev. A lot of what Marilee already said. If not a whole committee, what I suggested at the last community forum we did was if we could actually have staff. I know that sounded like not a possibility, but I think someone mentioned at the community forum, just grants in general, if there were just small business grants that we could, even if whether it's for something that they were struggling with, or even just beautification, things they can't afford anymore, like maybe their landscaping or plantings or things like that, that they had to cut, but they still want their business to look nice and they would appreciate even little grants like that. The next category is just really about schools. Something for the kids in the schools that, all the kids that got lost during COVID, if there's some sort of coaching or ways to help those kids that fell through the cracks. Sherry mentioned things that I think a lot of mental health things. I completely support what she said. Not doing well in school, I think, is a contributing factor to making kids, have poor mental health. And if just something in the schools, if we could do, I think that would be beneficial. And then just two more things that I saw other towns do that I thought would be interesting. One was the electronic clickers for town meeting. I thought that was neat. And then I actually think this was brought up at the forum, just a consultant to maybe assess all the needs that we have and figure out how we can best spend this money so that if we need, I think it was $49,000 that it was for the Southborough to the consultant. If we needed someone to help like listen to all these ideas, I know you're doing a nice job here taking all this feedback, but if there's somebody that could help us optimize these funds and really listen to the needs of each of these groups and figure out how we could spend the money and maybe even supplement it with other grants that could help the money go further. So that was my wish list and I appreciate you taking the feedback. Thank you.
Thank you, Carrie. I see lots of faces of people who have not yet come to the podium. Who's next? Sure. Come on up.
Hi, good evening. I'm Martha Michaelevich, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Community Meals. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Community Meals, but it's a program that's been happening for the last 25 years in Northborough. And originally it was housed at Trinity Church, and it was totally funded by area churches and volunteers. But when COVID hit and we couldn't go inside anymore, and the people who participated in Community Meals missed the meal and they missed the fellowship. And so a group of us got together and decided that we couldn't give them fellowship anymore, but we certainly could give them a meal. So since June of 2020, we have been serving meals curbside, starting with 39 people, and now we serve between 100 and 120 to 130 meals every single Wednesday. People come drive in, we give them a meal, we give them water, we give them a dessert, and sometimes fruit. So we buy the meals. We buy the meals at the present time. They're costing $5 to $6, but I know the cost of our vendors. The vendors have been very wonderful, but the cost of our vendors is going up, and so we don't know how long we're going to be able to provide these meals at our present cost. Up until now, we have been fully funded by the generosity of our community. We've worked with the food pantry, and but our funds are drying up. We did a recent fundraiser. We were going to be out of funds at the end of May. We did a recent fundraiser, and we're up. We've got funds till the end of September. But we are filling a need of food insecurity and actually a little bit of fellowship for a great deal of our elderly and our families. And we are just hoping that maybe ARPA funds could be help sustain this program. It's a very much basic needed program. And with people's incomes being squeezed with gas and their own food, we feel like the need is even going to get greater. So I thank you for your time and your consideration. Mary Ellen, do you have anything to add?
I was just Martha's moral support. She did a great job.
Great. Martha, do you mind if I ask you
Oh, no,
a question? So you do this every Wednesday.
Every
I'm
Wednesday.
somewhat familiar with the program. Do you think that people are ready to come back in person to have it in, or not
The
yet?
people would like to go back in, but we have contacted all of the, about 2 months ago, we contacted all the churches and some of the volunteer organizations, and we asked if they would be willing to go back inside, and then they would pick up, like they did, their volunteers made the meals, etc. No one was willing to go back inside as volunteers. And the other thing is, a lot of the area churches, their cash flow has not been great, and they're having a hard time getting the money to do the meal. We're hoping at some point we go inside. We hope that this is not going to be a project long term, but we really feel that maybe for the next year we'll probably be outside.
Yeah, I can appreciate the fellowship part of that.
Yeah,
not
I mean,
being
at least
present,
this
missing
way,
something.
at least with the way it is right now, they drive up. It's a lot of the same people. We say, hi, how's your week going? What's going on? It's a little bit of fellowship, but really it's the food insecurity that we're worried about.
I know, I apologize for sidetracking this just a little bit. I know I'm aware of at least a couple of towns that have done a similar program where instead of preparing food for people, they get gift certificates from area restaurants and separately even from businesses. And instead of giving them food, they give them a gift card and say, hey, go treat yourself to a local restaurant.
Well, again, you'd have to ask the restaurants to donate the gift cards, and they can't afford to do that. We do purchase gift cards so that if we run out of meals, because nobody makes a reservation, they just drive up. So if we happen to run out of a meal on any week, we have gift cards to the restaurants who participate, but we buy them.
Is that then something that ARPA funds might be able to help with by buying the gift cards? I'm thinking about a way of connecting the needs of the people that you're working with trying to help the businesses a little bit.
I guess we could, but I think the fact that we're giving, are they going to go from the drive-in and go to a restaurant and pick up something? But when they drive in, we give them a hot meal, mostly hot, and they just have to go home and eat it. And I think that fills a very specific need.
Okay.
A lot of the businesses we use are local businesses.
Yes, we use local businesses. So we give them, we hope we're giving them a business, a little bit of business. We hope they're not losing any money by doing it. So we're using local businesses, and we do tell the participants periodically who the businesses are that are donating. And so,
Great.
Okay.
Thanks, Martha.
Anything else?
Anything else? Okay,
Thank you.
sure. Thanks. Again, I see many friendly faces here who have ideas spinning through their heads, and I would like to hear them. Yeah, good.
Gib Chase, 6 Kimball Lane, Juniper. I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to participate in this. And I would encourage the Board of Selectmen, the Town Administrator, and hopefully the support of everyone listening, that you can maximize the funding so that the greater number of residents here in town can benefit from this relief fund that we're getting. I support the young lady that came up here and advocated for the mental health and also for the community dinners. I also want to put a word in that for the senior center, which we are blessed in having a wonderful senior center, which is by comparison to a lot of other towns around the area really underfunded. And I would like to see some funds go into that on an annual basis. We need help there. We can't bring back the Tuesday night bistro yet. We don't have the help. We need probably another full-time position in there to help out at the front desk and around. We're not maximizing the use. We haven't got back to pre-COVID numbers yet, but we're trying. But I'd like to see money go into that senior center. There was another young lady that got up here and was advocating for something, and I forgot what. But the dementia program also.
I'm sorry, which program?
You forgot too.
Oh, I thought you said a program name right there that I didn't get, but you forgot the program. All right. And I don't know which one you're referring to.
He said the dementia.
Dementia program.
Dementia. Sorry. Boy, you were hooked right into that one on time. We'll have to get it together.
I may need to visit that. Yeah.
Anyway, for infrastructure, if you're going to put money into that, I'd like to see more money go into road improvements and maintenance. What else was I going to say? Affordable housing, again, I want to remind everyone, you heard the Chamber of Commerce speaking out here, but I want you to remember that inflation has hit all of us, not just the businesses. And there's a lot of people in town on fixed incomes. There's a lot of low income that were struggling even before this COVID and are still struggling. The economic outlook, business outlook for this town, the nation, the state, there may be pockets of recovery, but I think it's going to be a long way off and going to get worse before it gets better. There's a lot of people and a lot more people that are out of jobs, that are the mental health situation has been rising faster than unemployment, I think. So we do need to consider these community type of the community type of programs that can help out the people here, both seniors and others, and even including a lot of young people. I think that's about all I want to say, but just maximize the funding so the majority of people can benefit if we can on it. Thank you.
Thanks, good. We have a number of people online and no hands up online. Come on, online people. Good ideas. All right. We have someone in, oh, okay. All right, I saw you before I saw the hand, so you're up, and then I've got a couple people
I
online
just have
I'll get
one
to.
quick thing to add, and it's as a result of stuff Hugh was saying. Wouldn't it be amazing if these departments, because I'm thinking, wouldn't it be amazing if Youth and Family Services knew that they needed a half-time position at the bistro, and there was enough capacity that our staff was not already working well beyond the hours that they're scheduled for, because we have that extra position to be able to facilitate these connections between our departments of town and get these needs met. So that just occurred to me while he was talking. And it also brought up, I guess, a question comment that I have, which I'm just curious, post this forum, if there will be an opportunity for departments, because I know there's some of us that are okay getting up here and speaking, and there's a lot of people who are just not comfortable with this, but would be love to talk to the group of selectmen to just be able to chat about what their department is doing and what the needs might be. And I'm just curious if there might be an opportunity for that. And then if there will be some guidelines on applying for ARPA funds based on community or department needs.
Sure. So as far as input, I mean, we're happy to take input from anyone. If you're for a department, meaning a staff person, that's best going through the administration office to funnel up to us, and we will get that information. But that's just the correct delineation as far as process. For a committee that works with a department, the committee or committee chair could certainly send us an email to that ARPA or call us or anything else. But honestly, the email is good because that immediately goes out to all of us. And then we can easily consolidate and make sure nothing gets lost there. And I would say that if anybody, whether it be committee or organization or department or anything else, would rather sit down and meet with a couple of us or potentially all of us at a meeting, let us know. I mean, again, committee, welcome to contact me directly or the ARPA thing. And if it's department for your staff person, John's the right person to go through for that.
I just think there's a lot of ideas out there.
Yeah.
That would be a great way to.
Great.
Yeah, Mitch.
Yeah. Karen,
I was
listen.
just piggybacking on that. That there's the liaisons too, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And I'm the Family and Youth Services liaison, and I found that to be a really good way to just talk about things, and then I have a little bit of an idea of what they're discussing when I go to their meetings and things like that. But then I can also speak up for them at meetings if it's too much of a hassle to invite department heads to a meeting or too awkward or whatever. I mean, I'm not really sure the best way to do everything, but if there's a good liaison committee relationship, sometimes that can be a good way to get messages through as well.
Good point. Thanks, Kristen. All right, so we have 3 hands up online. Fantastic. I'm just going to go in the order they are on my screen. So Richard Ferencik, I'm going to bring you in by audio. Hi, Richard. You should be able to talk. You'll need to unmute your microphone.
Mitch?
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh, great. Okay. My name is Rick Ferencik. I live at 205 Crawford Street, and I'm currently president of the Northborough Historical Society. And I just wanted to touch base. We had an organizational meeting on Tuesday, and we addressed some of the needs that we might have. During the pandemic for the past 2 years, we worked hand in hand with the town health agent, and we had to cancel at least 2 programs. And on 4 other programs, we basically, because the facility was basically too small, it wouldn't conform to the town COVID requirements. We were graciously accepted help from Trinity Church. They sponsored our programs hand in hand. And also recently we did a Mark Friedrich program at the Unitarian Church itself. So we're trying to recoup the monies, the expenditures spent for renting these other facilities itself. We're probably considered one of the best secrets in town because we supply a lot of community services that people really aren't aware of, such as we've lost the income for the past 2 years from AA. They meet every Saturday for 4 hours at our facility. And I think few people realize that we also provide facilities to the American Mountain Club, the Art Guild, and it's very, very affordable. So we work hand in hand is for these community services itself. During the organizational meeting, we discussed many other things as far as obviously the cost of utilities. I don't have to tell everybody as far as the cost of oil has absolutely skyrocketed. And also the other utilities were basically privately funded. We don't get any money from the town or what have you kind of thing. So everything is done by donations. We had an annual appeal recently kind of thing. So it's really the COVID, it's really had a major impact on not only our programs or what have you. I just want to just touch base as far as like next year, just to give you a flavor of some of the programs, our monthly programs. We're going to have Kathleen Howland. She's going to do a presentation on the Lyceum in town. We have Ted Reinstein from Channel 5. He'll do a program on baseball, and also Norm Corbin. He's pretty active in the Northborough Historic District Commission. He'll do on the historic sections of town, things like this. These are really attract a lot of people. We have a lot of camaraderie at the Historical Society itself. And I think honestly, legitimately, we've really missed out as far as because COVID itself. So basically what we'll do is refine our requirements. We'll go through the annual report with a fine tooth comb and come up with a whole list of things that we thought legitimately would be recompensated because of the COVID pandemic. Thank you, Mitch.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, I love the Historical Society, and so I appreciate the work that your organization does. And so, yeah, let us know. I guess send an email with those details. Thanks, Rick.
Okay. Thanks, Mitch.
All right. Next up on my list with the hands is Brilla Coffee. Brilla Coffee, I am bringing you in by audio. Unmute your microphone, please.
Yes. Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
And yes.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Alexis. I'm the business owner of Bria Coffee in 17 West Main Street. So first of all, good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. The town of Northborough has been wonderful to work with since we joined the town September last year. One thing I can say as a small business owner is, since that time frame, a lot of costs have gone up, as everyone has mentioned, in raw materials, fuel, the cost of the employees, everything, has definitely started to go up pre-pandemic and definitely, right now with the inflation. So just a suggestion is, as a business owner, we, thank you again for the town for speaking to us and thinking of us, and, anything that can be shared on the next steps of what you're planning to do in the future, with the businesses, that'll be great. Some suggestions is the downtown area is a wonderful area in Northborough. Just anything that can be done to increase the foot traffic. I know there's a lot of car traffic, but foot traffic in that area will be wonderful for a lot of small businesses there. I've been there, I work around the area, so it is a little bit slow in that area. So I think it'll be good to revitalize that area. And secondly is, there are a couple of businesses around the area that can maybe benefit from new signs or outdoor seatings or things like that, that may increase customers to come in. And lastly is, marketing. It's important for all of us, as small business, to make sure customers from outside of Northborough can come and visit us. So just a few suggestions, but again, I appreciate the opportunity. And I do want to also mention, I heard earlier, and I was driving, I couldn't get the name, I think, of the food pantry in Northborough. Just feel free to reach out to me. We can definitely do something to help out on the coffee side. Definitely once you have more customers or more people going in there in person, we can help out there as well. So thank you for the opportunity. Have a wonderful evening.
Alexis, thank you. And the food pantry folks are smiling.
Okay, wonderful. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Erica Zeiger, you're up next. I'm going to bring you in.
Hello.
Hi, Erica. How are you?
I'm good. I hope everyone's doing well. I would like to see in town a teen empowerment center. And in previous communities that I lived in, if you think of a Boys and Girls Club, it's a central location where typically it's ages 12 to 18, but I've seen it as high as, say, 20, 21. And what these centers do is, in addition to sports and physical activities, they have different programs. So they might do a resume writing program. They might do homework help. Clearly, there's a need for counseling. Almost anything, financial management, which I know is really lacking for teenagers. How do you use a debit card? and just different things like that. I just think it would be great. There's not a whole lot for teens that age to do. And I think it would also help foot traffic if we could get it in a location where the kids could go for a smoothie or, whatever it might be.
So you're thinking about a physical location, a physical item that doesn't exist now, as opposed to taking advantage of whether it be the library or one of the churches near downtown or anything like that?
No, I think that would be wonderful if there was someone, if there was something that could do that. The library does amazing. And I think that they could probably teach, they could probably come in with a lot of those programs. But what I found was to attract a lot of people, the movement stuff is needed, whether it's basketball or cornhole or something like that. Like a half day from school, you've got all the middle schoolers will walk downtown and they get their pizza and they get their smoothie, but it would be great if on a rainy day there was somewhere to go. But I think utilizing space we have would be the way to go.
That's great. Any questions? Okay, Erica, thank you very much.
You are welcome. Thank you. I really appreciate this.
All right, we have another remote participant just listed as Clementi 1. I'm bringing you in. Hi, if you could unmute your microphone, please.
Am I unmuted at this point?
You're unmuted, we hear you.
Oh, hi, it's actually Joan Clementi, and I live at 30 Thaddeus Mason Road. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak. My views might be skewed a bit because I've been on Family and Youth Services Committee for 28 years. So I am focused quite a bit on mental health and also the mental health issues that seem to be rising in the town. What I would like to know is if these funds could be used to support a full-time position within the Family and Youth Services. We currently have an open rec for a half-time position, but it's very hard to recruit for a half-time position, and also the need is a lot higher than an additional half person. I also would like to know if funds could be allocated to this department to support programming that could prevent some mental health issues from happening. We used to be able to do programming when we had a full-time person who happened to have been assistant director to the director. And that helped a lot with the young kids. It helped with kids. We had programs for kids who lost a parent or who were dealing with a sick parent or multi-generational homes. So if we could start that up again, especially after pandemic, I think that would be great. And lastly, we have 8 homeless families in the town. I was wondering if funds could be allocated to support these families. Possibly in Massachusetts, they used to house the families in a local motel. I was wondering if, it can't be obviously forever, but at least in the short term, we could house these families instead of having them live in their cars with children. So that would be my request. And also was wondering if there'll be another meeting like this to review the request and what has been decided upon.
Thank you. It's possible that we may want to reach out separately to Youth and Family Services to find out more about the homeless situation. I don't want to get into those details here. The board, this is the first meeting that the board has had about this. Then we will at our next meeting then talk about this and decide what the next steps are. So as far as any future meetings like this, I don't have an answer for you yet. But
Okay.
but we have the email address open for any other ideas that you or anybody else have. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Joan.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. There are people. All right. We've got a couple people up here, and then I do have at least one more person waiting in the wings, but who I wasn't keeping track of who was here first. So, okay, Bryce.
Yeah, hi, my name is Bryce McKnight, 9 Longfellow Road. This is building off of things that have been said throughout the night in addressing kind of the need for individuals to have a space to go to express themselves safely, whether that is involving group opportunities for peers to talk about their challenges or be led through that by professionals. I would say you have some amazing committees in town that I think would really benefit from some of what seem to be, at least in my opinion, only having been here a few years, an accumulation of vacant town-owned properties. We're going to have another one soon with the building of the new fire department. And so I see no reason why to not take a hard look at developing a community culture and arts center for both physical activities as well as maker spaces, with the understanding that these funds are limited in the extent that they will be available to us. Those facilities can be modeled in a way that are at least revenue neutral, if not, revenue generating for the town and a relief for the tax base. So whether that is through equipment that can be leased or rented studio space, or just open spaces for individuals or community groups to come in and hold their events, whether it's the Historical Society or other spaces. But there seems to be more and more town-owned vacant spaces that could probably be utilized, and some of them are right downtown as we talk about driving foot traffic. And I think, even in the beautification efforts, you see the work that the Cultural Council did with the art, the doors at McAfee. And I think that we have the space, and I think we can invest in those spaces and model them appropriately so they don't require funds year over year, which is kind of what the ARPA money is intended for. So thank you.
Thanks, Bryce.
Bill Pierce. It's in listening to some of these groups that are out here and the work they do in town. It's a little heartbreaking that, they really are in need of this money. My concern and what I hope the board looks at is we really need to think of these groups long-term, right? Yes, we can use this money short-term and get them, for a couple of years. Something that Gene Cahill brought up was something along the lines of solar panels, right? So I did a little back of the napkin calculations, and basically for a $1.5 or $2 million investment, the town can reap anywhere from $250,000 to $300,000 a year in savings. That money long-term could help fund a lot of these programs. So I really want to make sure that we're going to use this. It's not that often that the town gets $1.5 or $2 million that it can put into a capital investment, right? So I really hope that we really think about that moving forward instead of thinking just the short term. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. I'm just going to quickly jump over to one more person waiting on Zoom, and then we'll be up. Mike DeShano, I'm bringing you in. Mike, if you could unmute your microphone, please.
Yes. Hi, Mitch. My name is Mike DeShano. I'm Vice President at the Historical Society. And I would like to just maybe go a little further than what Rick Ferencik was talking about earlier. We, as Rick mentioned, we have had some impacts as a result of COVID lost meetings or canceled meeting, I should say. And we recently met and are looking to do some investments in the interior of the building to make the meeting room a stronger place. That would include additional, upgrade in lighting, some ceiling work to help make the facility more attractive to get more groups to meet there. It was just a discussion earlier about having, teams or other groups meeting in different places, and we think this would be an optimal place to encourage that kind of stuff. So we're looking to expand the interior of the facility and looking to raise some funds to improve our audio visual, to perhaps get more speakers, more make it easier for speakers, I should say, to present their their wares and stuff. And so we would ask that perhaps that we be given some consideration to spend some of that money on some of the improvements that we're looking at. The other part of what we were talking about is if you could maybe elaborate a little bit on how the process goes to, is there an actual application that needs to be filled out, or is there a deadline? We weren't quite clear exactly. We have read the guidance document, and we were wondering if there was more, for example, the community preservation grant has a specific application. Is that something that will be necessary, or is it more of just something we provide to you describing what we would like to do? And also, is there a need for specific costs for this? Do we have to go out and get, if we're looking, for example, to do improvements on electrical work or audio visual work, do we have to get quotes, 3 quotes to do this when we submit something to you folks? If you could perhaps talk a little bit about that, it would be helpful for us.
Sure. So we haven't formally gone through that process of figuring out what would be necessary, particularly for funding outside programs. Historical Society is obviously valuable to the town, but you're a separate nonprofit. We're certainly eligible of funding you, but we don't have a process in place yet for that. I would suggest that if you have some things in mind, and it sounds like you have a couple of specific ideas in mind, put together a rough estimate, and it can be rough, and send that as a follow-up email to this conversation. That way we would have that. I imagine once we go through and look at all of the items that are under discussion, as we identify those that we might consider funding, we may want to reach out and at that point get a little bit more information. And as I would leave it at that. So I don't think it's worth spending the time to go out and get formal quotes yet.
Okay. Is there a deadline for applying for this?
No.
Okay.
The only deadline I imagine is once we've spent all the money.
Okay.
So sooner is better, of course.
Sure. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Sure. You're up. Hi.
George Michael, 3 Little Pound Road. I'm also a member of the Appropriations Committee for the past couple of years. I think the ideas that have come up and discussed tonight so far, and coupled with, I listened to the meeting that happened at Trinity Church back in January, and there were some great ideas that came up during that meeting also. They're all good, but I have a couple of concerns that I just think should be brought up. One is $4 million sounds like a whole lot of money, but it's not. And when you think about the fact that Northborough goes through about $70 million a year just to run the town, and just going from budget year to budget year, trying to keep level services, our budget can increase by as much as $2 million a year. That $4 million is going to be eaten up very fast. The second thing is that with the pandemic, there's over the last 2 budget years, we did a lot of belt tightening and pushing things off. We dipped into our contingency funds. We postponed a lot of capital purchases, and we stopped making payments on some of our long-term liabilities for the past 2 years that we're now in the process with this budget year of making up for that. But the concern is that from what I've seen and heard and what I read in like Northborough Guide, et cetera, we're trying to treat this $4 million as a separate bucket of money with a separate list of priorities. The ideas that have been brought up today are extremely valuable, and I think need to be thought of as more of not just something about do we spend part of this little bucket of $4 million on, but should these be part of the priorities of the town and where do they fit? And so my concern is that if we treat this as kind of a little thing on the side and not incorporate it into the long-term capital planning for the town and the long-term budgetary planning for the town, and we don't have these priorities fit into the ones we've got, we may start a couple things that just then die within 1.5 years, which would be awful. And we may, just never get around to kind of figuring out how they should fit into the whole bucket of priorities. So my concerns are that we don't necessarily think of this as a separate little $4 million kind of mad money kind of gift, but that we think of it as part of what's going to be part of the revenue for the town for the next 2 years. And that we think about all these ideas that have come up in terms of how they should fit into the town's priorities as a whole, and make sure that we, if we start something, that we can continue it for the next decade, not just for the next 20 months. So that's the concern. And then finally, I think we should keep in mind, we're headed into some serious financial headwinds. Inflation now is at a 40-year high. Interest rates are going up. It's going to be tough for the town just to do what it does there's going to be a lot of pressure on us budgetarily. So keeping that in mind and making sure we don't start something and then let it starve. I prefer that we kind of work it into town priorities and figure out a way that if we're going to step into any one of these areas, we make sure we make it sustainable. So thank you.
Thanks, George.
Good evening. My name is Susan Sartori. I live at 465 Green Street. I want to thank you tonight for this opportunity for all of us to get together. But before I start on what I'm interested in tonight, I want to actually thank the Board of Selectmen, the town administrator, the school committee, and the school superintendent for what they did for us for the last 2 years to get us through COVID. It was a lot of good, solid planning. It was a lot of working together as a community. All departments worked together and we got through pretty well. And I think that we did very well as a community in comparison to the other towns. So I think we should start from there, then take a look at this $4 million and realize there are a lot of things that we do need to do and focus on. One of them is mental health. It's a huge issue. It's a huge issue for all ages, from the littlest to the oldest in the community. Somehow we'll have to incorporate that into our operating budgets long-term, as Mr. Pierce says. That is the way to go. So we don't want to just dip it into a bucket, drop a few pennies in, and then walk away because we can't have it in the bottom line for one budget year after year after year. So the challenge, and I do not envy you for this, is that right now, inflation is at 8.6%. As of June 16th, a 3-year fixed mortgage was now 5.78%. We gain a lot of our tax dollars from the homes and the properties in this town. If our property values decline, so will our revenues from the taxes that we take in. So I want you to keep that in mind as you go forward. and try to make a decision of how you're going to use this money to make sure that we're using it in the best possible way. The last thing I want to see is going into this recession that is probably going to come and having to lay off people that we already have employed, let alone people that we're putting on short term for a 2-year time, hoping to put money into a budget. So we're going to have to really sharpen our pencils next year and take a really good hard look at how we're going to plan to get through the next few years. The last recession took 4 years for the real estate market to rebound. 4 years. And we still had to go through the recession before actually the market started to rebound. I talked to my financial planner today. I said, what the heck should we do? I'm 66 years old. I would have liked to have sold the house 6 months ago. We're kind of probably stuck now because the values of the homes have gone down 20% already. So his advice to me is pay down debt. Everybody needs to pay down your debt, and you need to dip into your savings to pay down your debts. So what I'm saying to you is it's not really a bad idea. Some of the things that were started with originally that were put forward by the town administrator as far as capital projects, capital items, they are important. If we can buy those now and not have to pay a high interest rate on them later, we will have gained something. So it's going to be a real hard balance to do the programs that you're going to need. You're going to need to feed the community because you're going to have people with less money than they had in the last 2 years. Some people actually made out a lot better during COVID than they are making out now. So I just ask you to put an approach forward, thinking long-term. Use this money to jumpstart some things, but make sure it's not a jumpstart that falls off the cliff.
Thank you, Susan.
Hi, I'm Sandy Scott, 5 Jacob Cobb Lane. Rick? I'm not a great public speaker, but I'll do my best. Okay. I'm the chair of the Youth Commission, and you've already heard from a couple of members of the Youth Commission, and I wrote myself a 3-minute speech. I even timed it so I would fit right in, and it said pretty much everything Sherry's already said. So I will not go through that all again. But I do want to reiterate, there's some great ideas we've heard tonight. Hard to argue with any of them, but I want to reiterate the request for filling that, changing that half-time, part-time position on the Youth Commission to a full-time position. Excuse me. That's something we've been asking the town for a long time, to increase that funding to expand the department. So I just want to reiterate that with the needs we see during COVID, and we don't see them changing anytime soon, mental health needs, social service needs, that the Youth Commission is filling those needs, and we have a continued demand. So I'd like to see my plug for that, expanding that position. Thank you.
Thank you. Kelly.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Gannett, 69 Northgate Road. But tonight I'm speaking on behalf of the Northborough School Committee. We are grateful for the ARPA funds that we've already received for the downspouts and gutter replacements, which had contributed to the deterioration of the Fannie E. Proctor school roof. I'm asking you for consideration for additional funding for the short-term repairs to the Proctor roof as we await to hear if we are accepted into the Massachusetts School Building Authority's accelerated repair program, as well as consider funding the portion of the roof not covered by the reimbursement. Thank you for your consideration. We have submitted a letter to you all, the Board of Selectmen, and we have photos attached as well, but I just wanted to go out and put that on record.
Do you know what the short-term cost is and how long that would let us?
I have people here with me that might know.
Actually, Mitch, I can respond to that.
Sure. Thanks, John.
If you'd like. So as always, we work very closely with the school department. One of the issues that we're facing is this MSBA is a great program. It'll pay for roughly half of the roof, but it's on but it's on their schedule. And we don't have any control over that schedule. So One of the things I was working with the superintendent on with our new facilities manager was we brought out some roofers to look at what we could do potentially to buy ourselves enough time to get through the MSBA process. So prevent the leaks temporarily. They're not permanent fixes. I'm hesitant to say what that figure is at the moment because I don't have the estimates in hand, but we have a range that we're looking at, everything from some spot fixes to maybe a temporary coating. Now, obviously, I'm one who doesn't want to spend money that's going to be lost. However, if we spend money that gets us through the MSBA process, that potentially will save the town, $900,000, that grant. So if we have a chance to do that, we want to do it only if it works and only if it actually addresses the leaks. But we seem, based on the information I got today, I shared with the superintendent, we're pretty optimistic that we'll be able to do that, but it's likely going to require, well, it will require additional funding to buy some more time to let the MSBA process move forward. So what my understanding is, we'll know in September if we're invited, if that project is invited to move forward. If it's not, then we'll be having a different conversation.
That was the question I was going to ask, is when you're back from
Yeah.
MSBA, so their September meeting.
They have an October board meeting. We'll know hopefully in July if we're accepted into the program.
Mhm.
And then they'll make a ruling hopefully by their October board meeting. So, but the roof is in desperate need of repairs.
I would just say through the chair, if I may, one of the positive things, we have had excellent success at MSBA for small projects and large projects like the Lincoln Street School. And one of the reasons for that is we go to them as a single entity with a single voice and a plan. And one of the big pieces is if you can show that you have locally secured funding already and you can move forward on the project, the last thing they want to do is approve any project and then have the town unable to get their share through either town meeting or a ballot vote, that type of thing. So that's where ARPA funding would be a very helpful in that regard. So.
Great. Thank you. Thanks,
Thank
Kelly.
you.
I'll make another pitch out to online attendees. If anyone else, I see most of the people on the list have already participated. Does anyone calling in by Zoom want to bring anything forward to the board? How about in the audience? Who else has an idea? Anybody? Oh, we have somebody coming up. Great. Oh, okay. All right. I see DW has a hand up, but I'm going to first recognize the first person that I saw here. Hi.
Dan Martins, 132 Brewer Street. Full disclosure, I am a fireman in a neighboring community, so I am a little biased. My community, along with your community, purchased a fire apparatus in, I believe, around 2000. I know there's been talk about replacing the apparatus here. We replaced our apparatus 5 years ago, just as a little context. The apparatus here have and very much reached their lifespan.
Could I ask which piece of equipment you're referring to?
What they refer to as their rescue, I believe, rescue one.
Okay,
is my understanding. I also work in the fire apparatus industry, so we've seen price increases of 10% over the last 18 months. The more we just kick this can down the road, the more expensive it's going to get. So I know they're on capital and we want to, get the most mileage out of them as we can. Obviously, I know the chief and the department do a pretty good job with preventative maintenance, but things wear out. We pre-treat our roads. Roads have potholes, these things break. They all have a lifespan. It's a tool. I always like to say a fireman without a fire truck isn't very capable of much of anything, because we need to get to these scenes as quick as we can. So I'd like to see them, these capital purchases, police vehicles, fire apparatus, certainly a new fire station. We talk about our downtown, beautifying our downtown. Certainly a fire station will help us beautify the downtown. draw, customers and guests to our community, which is always important, driving tax revenue and so on and so forth. So I like to see that move forward and get these, capital purchases done.
Great.
All right.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to bring in initials DW. DW, if you could unmute your microphone, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So my question, sorry, I joined late. This is Danielle Williams. I live at 19 Assabet Hill Circle. I had sent in an email previously, and I didn't know if the emails were addressed, but my specific was about some money set aside to improve the traffic light at the intersection of Lincoln Street and Route 20.
Yes, I did see, we did get your email. I didn't make too much mention of the emails we've received thus far. We have, I don't know, 12 or 14 different emails, some of which have one item, some of which have quite a few. Danielle, I appreciate you bringing that up again. We have not gone through them here tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to add to that?
I guess not specifically. I think my email covers it. Unfortunately, I couldn't get my phone out quick enough this morning, but on this morning on the way to school, my kids are riding their bikes and I go with them for safety reasons. And 2 cars blew right through the light with the red light and the pedestrian walk sign with the countdown numbers, and they blew right through it. So unfortunately, I did not have my phone out. I wish I did, because it would have been very timely to send to you guys. But, I think my email covers the most of it. For those who aren't familiar or haven't seen, my concern is just that intersection, which is, we know, has been a safety issue for quite some time, not only for automotive, but pedestrians as well. And given that it's in a school zone with, about 750 kids, and a lot of those kids, mind you, are sometimes aren't following the rules either. But I just really would love to see some money set aside to address that intersection and really have the appropriate traffic lights in place for the safety of everybody. But that's it in a gist, but I just wanted to know if you guys, 1, received it, and then 2, I guess, question how those are going to be heard and handled, those conversations that come in over emails. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you very much, Danielle. Yeah, so the Board of Selectmen has received. I imagine that would be state involved, given that's Route 20. But the emails that the board has received, we're considering that equal input to the things we're receiving tonight, and we will consolidate it all and go through it all. DW, you still have your hand up. I'm going to lower your hand. If you have an additional question, feel free to raise it again. Thank you. Danielle, you've identified yourself. I should call you by that rather than your initials in Zoom. Anyone else in the room have anything else they'd like to bring forward? A good number of people have spoken, and I really appreciate it. Online, anyone else would like to raise their hand and be recognized? We might be winding down here. Any member of the board have anything that they want to ask or mention while we're here? Oh, Gibbs, do you want to? Yes.
Could you give us an indication, are you going to be holding another public meeting on this? Or any other chances to meet?
Sure. I'll repeat that since you're not at a microphone, just so it gets recorded. Gib asked whether we'd be holding another event like this, or how we'd be continuing the discussions. So the Board of Selectmen will have one of our regular meetings on I think it's the 27th or so of this month. I forget the exact date. And we'll have some of this month will be a regular Board of Selectmen meeting on Zoom as they have been for a while. And we will discuss in a general sense how tonight went and figure out our next steps then. So, so stay tuned and we'll figure that out. I imagine it's possible we may have another input session if we feel it is necessary. It's also very possible that we feel that we received sufficient input and we want to do some work on a very large volume of information that we have thus far and figure out what to do next. I'm sorry, Gib, could you do me a favor and go up there? I want to make sure that folks at home can hear your
Yeah,
statements.
thanks. This money here under the Rescue Act here, as I understand it, that is got to be spent here in a certain amount of time. We're running out. What do we got? A year and a half or what?
I think we have
It has
until
to be
the
obligated by December 1st, 2024 and expended by December 31st, 2026.
Okay, and you know, some of the people here that have spoke, the fellow on the Appropriations Committee, I think, brought up a lot of good points. And I didn't see this as money necessarily that can be rolled into long-term. And his point about a long-term commitment on funds for some of these things that we're throwing out here, you know, is well taken. And we have to think of it. For instance, like with the senior center, that they do have to have, I'd like to see some long-term funds being put into that. That would be long-term. Whether this is appropriate, it might be a better priority for the young lady who said there was more to be done, finished off at the middle school, some construction stuff. You know, if that's true, then that, you know, to me would be certainly a priority to get done and out of the way, whatever that is. One of the things I didn't bring up before was trying to get all of our public buildings into solar and into solar generated power and heat pumps and stuff to, you know, for the long term, but that would be more of a long term, although you could possibly use, you know, funds. I know fire apparatus can be purchased with this money, I believe, on it. There were a lot of good things come up that I think this money could be channeled into, and I'd like to see it. That would benefit a lot of the residents in town. One of the things that I picked up here on one of the talks was the some of the needs and trying to connect it to the priorities of the town. And this is my personal opinion, but over the years here, I've seen a you know, what I consider a real disconnect by the town's priorities and the real needs of the people in town. And I feel a lot of the residents and the taxpayers in this town that you rely on are being pushed to the limit as far as expenses. When I first came to town 50 years ago, this goes back to 71, 72, population has more than doubled since that time. At the end of the war, you had a population here in Northborough and a lot of towns in Worcester County that were under 5,000. My idea of Northborough, and I knew Northborough in this whole greater area at the time. I grew up south of here, but I was familiar with all of the towns, including Douglas. You're familiar with that. Those people there have maintained pretty much a steady state budget there. They have elected to keep the town rural, small, and they have not really tried to overpopulate. Here I've seen, while we were frugal through the 70s and early 80s, there was a massive jump in the early 90s with the change in the select board going into development and emphasis on development and economic revenue. And that has gone up, and the income capabilities have not kept pace with that.
I apologize for interrupting. I want to try to keep this on the ARPA funding. If you have anything else that can help us.
I'll bring it to
Great.
your selectmen meeting, but that's
Great.
That you're going to have to, you can't move ahead with some of this long-term stuff without start looking at the capabilities of payment by a lot of your residents here. There's a limit. And there's also a limit where development no longer pays for itself. We've reached that. And you got to keep that in mind when you're discussing about revitalizing downtown and converting buildings into community centers. Northborough wasn't supposed to turn out to be a Marlboro or even a Westboro, you know, for a lot of us. Now, there may be another mindset coming to bear here, but that's going to take money. We want all these things. That takes a lot of money, and people aren't going to be able to keep pace with that. I'm sorry.
Thanks, good. Thanks. Anybody else have anything else that they would like to offer? In person or online? Going once? Going twice? All right. Any board members have anything, any concluding remarks? John, any concluding remarks?
Nope, just, I've given you lots of information in the paper, so this is going to be a longer conversation over multiple sessions, so.
Yes.
Appreciate the input, though.
Julianne.
Correct me if I'm wrong, please, but in terms of moving forward, I think this is going to be a lot of meetings. But please participate in our selectmen meetings, that we will be welcoming comments during these discussions also.
Yes.
So that's another really important avenue for you to express your concerns and ideas.
Again, I will repeat the email address that I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, which is also on the town website. It's arpa@town.northborough.ma.us for any additional ideas or follow-up details for anything presented tonight. Saving nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, motion made by Scott, seconded by Julianne to adjourn, and I don't even have to do a roll call vote because we're in person. All